And even the logical operators like VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP and OR function, all of these things are being used in the modern world for decision making today. So let's say that if I'm going to keep the depreciation rate at 10%, so every year the value of that particular machinery would be depreciated in terms of 10%. Let us get the absolute value of the number. Yes, there is a function called ABS. Good morning and welcome to the second session, Unit 4, 4th semester BBA Information Technology for Business, where we're going to talk about Microsoft Excel in business. Now, as we are seeing the Excel functions, they are enabled to such a great extent that you can even cover the financial projections like NPV, IRR, loan or investment calculations, or probably even you can talk about depreciations today. So logically, if you're looking into this function, Excel is actually trying to make financial investments even more easier. That's what we are more interested in using Excel in the modern day function altogether. The second thing is that about the Excel, as we are talking about, there is a lot of factors that comes into picture, like when we talk about asset depreciation, when we talk about calculations or investments and other factors. This is somewhere where we will start working about how financially a particular project is viable, whether we can take it or whether we can, discard the project. All depends on the calculation. And even the logical operators like VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP and OR function, all of these things are being used in the modern world for decision making today. So with keeping all this, the Excel function becomes highly important for all of us to know from a business as well as from a practical purpose. Now, the key financial functions, NPV, as we are talking about, calculates the net present value of the investment based on the discount rate and the future cash flow. So this is something that is very common. As management and commerce students, you would be learning this in terms of your accounting, financial management, where you are trying to calculate the value of the investment based at the discount rate and the future cash flow. So once you are starting a project, you need to know at what rate probably these amount would be available to you and how these things will actually matter a lot. Similarly, when we are talking about the internal rate of return, the series of cash flows that we are talking about, all these things will matter a lot as we are talking about the payment and the payment cycles altogether. So when you look into these functions, what is very important about Excel is that it's not just about doing the right click and left click and getting the answer. It is more about understanding how we can take the projections forward. Which means to say that once you have entered the values on the balance sheet and you've started working. Now what happens is that people find Excel as an automatic tool which will give answers. The answer is no. It is not an automatic tool. It only helps you to calculate things faster. Now what is very important for us is that you should know what is the meaning of NPV or IRR or PMT. Why? Because where you are going to call this function, why are you going to use those functions? That is very, very important for all of us. So in that way, in that manner, when I'm going to talk about, this matters a lot. This is something very, very important for us. So that's why I always say that the NPV IRR is something very important for all of us to calculate, to understand why these rates will matter a lot. Now, as we go further, we're also going to learn about data analysis and lookup functions. So we're going to talk about present rate, we're going to talk about future rate, and then we're going to talk about the rate of payment and other factors, which means to say that returns to the present value of the investment, the future value of investment is also calculated, and it calculates the rate of interest as per the annuity method also. So all these things will matter a lot as we are talking about. Why? Because these are certain things which will actually help you to understand the present value, the future value of investments as we are talking further. The most important thing here is that whenever we are calculating the future value of investment, it also tries to talk about the present value, which means to say that based on the present, can we go to the future? There are certain projects where you would see that the present value might not be strong, but the future value, that is the realistic value, the business value might be higher. But what we try to do here is that we try to calculate the present value. We try to find out whether the investments are possible in that zone and can we take it further. So in that sense, I would always say that this particular concept of understanding future value, present value, and all other factors will help us to take it further. Similarly, the rate. It calculates the interest rate per period for an annuity, because when business borrow money from different sectors, from different people, you need to know at what rate and what will be the interest, what will be the cost of repayment that we are talking about today. And as we go up, we are also going to talk about salvage cost, life on a straight line depreciation. Let me have a quite important look into it. We are all interested in the modern days to buy big cars or big houses and other factors. But what is the depreciation value? Do we ever calculate the depreciation value behind a particular house or an object or an asset that we buy altogether? We don't. So whenever we use a straight line depreciation method, we will be able to understand this factor clearly, how much is the actual value of that project would be at the end of 5 or 10 years. Now, let's say that you're going to invest your money in a high-end car, or you're going to invest your money in some big project. But after 5 or 10 years, you suddenly start seeing that the value of the asset starts depreciating. That means you will understand that the investment must not be so important. It was not essential at that point of time. Similarly, the fixed declining balance depreciation, this we use for machineries and for building, where the value is standardized, let's say 10% or 20%, something like that. So which means to say that the lifetime period of that particular asset or of that particular value will start depreciating at a particular rate over a period of time. So let's say that if I'm going to keep the depreciation rate at 10%, so every year the value of that particular machinery would be depreciated in terms of 10%. So if the first year it was 1 lakh, the next year it would become 90,000. So like this, we keep on depreciating it, and then we try to understand that the value or the salvage cost that is remaining for it. Similarly, when I use the function SYD, sum of years in digits depreciation, this gives me more an intrinsic look into the factor, as in how much in terms of the last digit value as we are speaking about. Why? Because depreciation is very, very important we have in a business context. Whenever the investment happens on assets, whether it is movable or immovable assets, we are very much concerned about the asset function, the growth function altogether. So all these things must be kept in mind before we start calculating the activity. Let's go to the logical functions, the if, and or function. Probably we have been learning about the logical functions for a very, very long time by now. Right from the days of computer, when we started programming, one of the most complicated programming series was this if, then, or, and functions that we are talking about. These are functions which are primarily used to find out whether the condition is true or false. We are not going to make any complicated calculations, but nevertheless, a logical function is used to find out whether it is true or false. So at one point of time, you understand if the decision or the outcome is true, then can we go ahead with it? Or if the decision is false, we should stop getting into that particular decision. So now what happens? The outcome, that is the result, matters a lot when we are taking a business decision. So if the returns are going to be true, that means logically the calculation is going to come as true, then I go with that function. Or if it is false, it is time for me to recheck altogether. Now the conditional factors of or, if, and functions are very important for us to know. If will be used only when the condition is met, and is used when the arguments, the combination factors are working, or is used when either or function is going to be coming into picture. So if and an or, you need to know the difference very clearly. If is a conditional factor, and is a combinational factor, or is an either or function that is coming into picture. As we move up, we are talking about the lookup functions, the reference function, which means to say that the VLOOKUP and the HLOOKUP. What is so important about this VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP? The vertical value, which means to say that it looks for value in the first column of the table and returns the value in the same row of a specified column. So when we are looking into this lookup function, basically that's something like where I want to look into the range, I want to look into the value, I want to look into the factor as in how much it has happened, how it has taken place. All these factors will start coming into this lookup value. Now, this is something like when you are putting the array, rows and columns. So whenever you're using the VLOOKUP function, so it's going to find out the values inside that table itself. So when I have columns like this, I can check it up easily in that column itself. Now, for example, HLOOKUP would be something where I start looking in the same row that is specified. So when it's going to talk about rows like this is going to talk about columns. Now, in the columns and rows functions are important because, as I have told you in the previous sessions, when we are talking about data, which is hundreds and thousands or probably even in millions, you cannot waste time in looking for data. That means searching for data. The search function has to be reduced. You can't keep wasting time looking into each and every rows and columns trying to understand where the data is hiding. Rather, you use functions like this vertical lookup or the horizontal lookup that will help you to find out the value faster. Now with that, we will also go to the next one, the text functions, concatenate or the concat function, which is joining the strings. Next, we talk about the left and right, extract characters from the text strings. Now, we will also use the len function, which is used to find out the number of characters in the string, and text, which is used to find out the number of converts it into a text format altogether. So all these things are, quite a magical work, I would say, about the Excel. Why? Because these are certain functions which we do not remember on the top of our mind. We believe that Excel is only a numerical sheet that is being posted before your computer where you just keep on putting some numbers. On the other hand, I am basically looking into Excel, which has got a multiple set of functions which can work out wonderfully well, provided we understand these functions. See, for example, we can say that format a number and converts it into text. Now, that is very important because it is the base for an encoding procedure. Similarly, if you want to find out the number of characters in a string, yes, it's possible. Now, every time it is not mandatory that you have to go into Word or any other software, count the number of words, count the number of lines and all those series. No, you don't have to do it. You have functionality here. That's what I'm trying to say. Similarly, when it comes with concatenation and the other functions, and you're able to join the strings, you're able to extract it, all these functionalities will matter a lot. Similarly, we are talking about mathematical function. Adding of cell can be done using the function called sum. Roundup of the function can be used with this function, which rounds the number to specific. Let us get the absolute value of the number. Yes, there is a function called ABS. So when you look into all these functions, you will be able to understand that using Excel, I can do really wonders because there is a lot to learn from these functionalities. Similarly, with this, I come to the end of this particular session. I hope and believe that all these functions will help you to learn Excel better, apply those techniques in the business. So with this, we come to the end of the information technology for business module. And I believe all the classes that you have learned through will help you to write the exam better and score better. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session. You have a great day ahead.